order. May I have a roll call, please?
Chair Hauser,
Present.
Vice Chair Ferguson.
Present.
Berman, sorry, apologies. Vice Chair Berman.
Present.
Commissioner Ferguson.
Present.
Commissioner Godwin.
Present.
Commissioner Redfield.
Present.
And Commissioner Davis.
Present.
Commissioner Davis, can you lead us in a salute to the flag?
Certainly. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, before we get into administrative business, any member of the public wishing to make public comment on any item should complete a speaker card and bring it to the front and hand it to staff. Please indicate the agenda item on which you wish to speak or oral communications for items not on the agenda. Members of the public may also participate in the meeting via Zoom or by the dial-in option shown on the screen. If we could show that on the screen, that'd be great. Once dialed in, enter the conference number shown on the screen, press the pound key. When the opportunity for public comment arises, press *5 to raise your hand if dialing by phone or the raised hand function in Zoom. I will call each speaker, whether in person or by dial-in, for their public comment opportunity. Public meetings are a limited public forum, meaning that there are rules for commenting at these meetings. Comments on non-agendized items must address matters within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city, and comments on agendized items must relate to that specific item. If comments do not fall into one of these categories, the city will provide you with a second warning to stay within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city or on topic. If the warning is not followed, the chair will direct the city clerk to cut off the microphone. And throughout this warning system, I will seek the assistance of the assistant city attorney in identifying comments not related to the agenda item or not within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city. Okay. So that brings us to administrative business, starting with approval of the order of the agenda. We have quite an agenda tonight. Does anyone have comments on the order? Oh, Commissioner Davis.
If it's within our purview, I wanted to request that item 4 and item 3 be reversed in order, just based on the community interest in 4, which will be appropriate to bring it forward.
I would be amenable to that, but I would ask staff if the applicant tonight is willing to, I want to make sure that we have time done thoughtfully here.
The applicant will be virtual tonight,
Okay.
and so I'm not sure how they've planned their night to attend tonight's meeting, but I guess we could ask them potentially if they're on the meeting, we can promote them to get feedback.
And the applicant is Caltrans.
Yes.
And let me ask a question, because this is a new public hearing. Is it indeed new? It seems very familiar.
It was previously approved in 2022 and has come back before the Planning Commission. The same project, the permits have expired, so they're requesting a reapproval. So it's very similar to a project that you've reviewed and considered in the past.
Commissioner Davis, I totally understand wanting to move 4 ahead of 3. I think 3, it's just my own conjecture, but I think 3 will be quick, and I don't want our partners at Caltrans to have to wait for hours to hear their item. What do you think?
I had that same thought, and I wasn't here for the previous one, but yes, if you feel that comfortable that it's going to be, I think that's fine. Thank
Any
you.
other?
I appreciate the consideration.
I'm seeing nods. Okay, thank you. All right, so then with that, I think we keep the order of agenda as planned. Can I get a motion?
Move to approve the agenda as noted.
Is there a second?
Oh, 1 second.
Please vote.
Motion by Commissioner Ferguson, seconded by Commissioner Davis. That motion passes unanimously.
Fantastic. Okay, and then we'll move on to approval of minutes and designations of liaison. I don't have any comments on administrative business in front of me. Are there any raised hands on Zoom or the phone?
There are no raised hands at this time.
Okay, so I will close public comments on administrative business. Does anyone have comments on the minutes? Commissioner Davis.
Okay, sorry. So I'm going to keep it kind of general. As I recall, at the last meeting, Chair Hauser requested a proofreading of the minutes, and I mean this in the most constructive possible way, but when a fundamental thing like the commissioners' names are not correct, to me it starts to reflect on the accuracy of the document and the fact has it or has it not been proofread. And specifically in one of the votes on packet page 7, it still lists Commissioner Wright. It happens that it's my name that was left off, but that's not why I bring it up. And another place that refers to me as Commissioner Dave. I don't think there's anyone named Dave up here, but I'm being a little flip, but I think it's really important, and I think a proofread would be really appreciated, at least by, I know, 2 of us. Yeah, thank you.
Would you like to make that recommendation to staff and request a continuance to the next hearing?
You mean a continuance on the approval of minutes?
Or yes, or like moving it to the next hearing?
Do that.
Chair Hauser, just to highlight something, these minutes are for the HE rezoning program. We were planning to provide these as supplemental attachments to the report to City Council. We may do that as a draft watermark, but if you do choose to continue it to the next meeting, just to let you know, we're planning to do that.
I think it's important that the council members have the minutes, so I think at the very minimum having them in draft, but I do agree that they should reflect the meeting.
Chair Hauser, the motion could be to approve the minutes and direct staff to do a final spell check to correct minor typographical or grammatical errors as part of the motion.
So do I make a motion?
If you're inclined to approve them.
Yes, and I too felt they were very extensive and they were very thorough. But yes, I would make the motion to approve the minutes, but contingent on last spell check by staff.
Okay. I heard you, but your mic was off apparently, so
Well, at least you heard me.
I heard you.
My mama would be proud. Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes as submitted with the direction to staff for a final spell check and proofread. To me, they're 2 different things. To correct minor grammatical and typographical errors, including names of commissioners. Thank you.
Is there a second?
Second.
Let's vote.
Motion by Commissioner Davis, seconded by Commissioner Ferguson. That vote passes unanimously.
All right. And for the designation of liaison to city council, we do have one, right? For the housing element rezonings?
In staff's notes, I don't think we decided on one in particular, but can we reiterate who would be attending August 11th meeting?
Yeah, I think Chair Hauser was just mentioning in the agenda, it says that we don't need a designation of liaison, but we understand that we do need a designation of liaison for the upcoming city council meeting.
That's correct, yes.
I am available and happy to attend.
Fabulous. I would love for you to attend, Vice Chair.
Okay.
All right. So that takes us to oral communications. And I do have a speaker card for oral communications. I am going to reiterate the initial public advisement that public meetings are a limited forum, meaning that there are rules for commenting at these meetings. Comments on non-agendized items must address matters within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city, and comments on agendized items must relate to that specific item. If comments do not fall into one of these categories, the city will provide you with a second warning to stay within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city or on topic. If the warning is not followed, the chair will direct the city clerk to cut off the microphone, and throughout this warning system, I will seek the assistance of the assistant city attorney in identifying comments not related to the agenda item or not within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city. That is a mouthful. So that takes us to Lori, Y, for item not on the agenda.
Hi, I'm Lori. And first, a genuine thank you to all our city officials and our public representatives for all the time you dedicate to serving the public. Recently, I've been trying to engage and get information on items before the Planning Commission, and sometimes it's challenging for the public. So I'm respectfully asking you to consider, 1, is it possible to have an entire Planning Commissioner's email address, just like we have an entire City Council email address? 2, can you consider posting the notice of public hearing in our local Coastside News? It appears the city posts the notice in the San Mateo Daily Journal. However, when I called them, I was informed that you cannot access the notice online without a subscription. I wonder how many Pacifica residents have a subscription or read the paper version. Maybe even post the notice on social media, similar to what I've seen the Pacifica Police Department post for various upcoming events to alert Pacifica residents. 3, can you post a link to the current notices of public hearings on the city's website during the 20-day notice period, similar to what the Planning Division already does for archive notices on the website? I think this would give the public easier online access during the 20-day period before a public hearing. 4, can you provide public online access again to documents submitted for active planning applications? I understand that Senate Bill 1214 is the reason this public information and service was removed from the city website. However, this law is meant to protect copyrighted architectural drawings and should not prevent the public from online access to documents. From doing a little online research, I found how both objectives can be accomplished. A neighboring city has already implemented this process. Please look into how the Planning Division can once again provide public online access to application materials. It is important for citizens to feel there is transparency, and online access to documents can help to achieve that goal. Thank you for considering these requests to even better serve the public. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. All right, that is the only oral communication speaker card I have. Are there any raised hands?
There are no raised hands on Zoom.
All right, with that, I will close oral communications and move on to the consent calendar. I believe there's no staff report for these, so unless staff would like to make a comment, I am willing to entertain a motion.
I move that we receive the consent items.
I think we have to move to approve the consent items.
Approve the consent items as noted in the agenda.
I have a question on the first consent item.
Are you pulling? Well, let me ask a question. Can we ask a clarifying question without pulling an item?
Yes.
Okay.
From the looks of Google Earth, it seems like the ADU that's requesting approval is already installed. Is that the case?
This ADU that is proposed at this site is an active code enforcement violation, and in order to remediate the violation, they had to undergo the approval process, which required the administrative coastal development permit, and then once the ACDP process has completed, they will submit for a building permit.
Okay, I see. So that's what triggered the immediate CDP.
Yes.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Okay. And you do not want to pull the item?
No, I had a feeling that it wasn't going to change my agreeance with approving it.
Okay, and I made a mistake in asking for a motion because I did not open public comment. Okay, and I am now opening public comment. I do not have any, hang on, let me double check that. I do not have consent calendar comment cards. Is anyone raising their hand on Zoom?
There are no raised hands over Zoom.
Close public comment, and Commissioner Ferguson, are you willing to stick by your motion?
Still willing to approve the consent items.
Okay, I will second that motion. Let's please vote.
Motion by Commissioner Ferguson, seconded by Chair Hauser. That vote passes unanimously.
All right. And that takes us to new public hearings, starting with item 3, State Route 1 Public Right-of-Way, Coastal Development Permit to install a wireless detection system. May we have a staff report, please?
Thank you, Chair Hauser. We have Jacob Garcia with Good City Company presenting tonight.
Hello, Commissioners, and thank you very much. I'm going to just give our presentation a practice here before jumping into it.
One moment, we're having some technical difficulties.
While staff is working out those technical difficulties, I have 2 public comment cards from 2 different Ms. Marescos on agenda item 5. There is not an agenda item 5, so is that intended to be agenda item 4? Yes. Thank you.
Okay, we are ready. Thank you. Again, my name is Jacob Garcia. I'm a consultant planner for the City of Pacifica. And the item before you tonight is a request for a coastal development permit to install a wireless detection system module onto an existing structure at location 9-1 and construction of 1 variable message sign and associated improvements at location 9-2 as part of the Caltrans State Route 1 Traffic Operations Systems Improvement Project. I'll start first with the project background. The project applicant is the California Department of Transportation, or as referred to within this presentation, Caltrans. Caltrans proposes traffic operations system improvements along State Route 1 between Half Moon Bay and Daly City. This includes installation of 6 wireless detection systems, 5 ground-mounted variable message signs, Midwest guardrail systems, and 2 maintenance vehicle pullouts at 10 proposed locations along State Route 1. The improvements would provide the traveling public using State Route 1 with real-time travel information related to emergency events, such as notifications regarding evacuations, fires, earthquakes, and tsunamis, plus information related to public safety, power shutoffs, accidents, tunnel closures, and Amber Alerts. The project would also inform Caltrans Traffic Management Center in Oakland, California, of recurrent and non-recurrent congestion on the corridor and the causes of that congestion. Emergency and incident-related information provided will help inform the public traveling on State Route 1 of upcoming roadway conditions outside of Pacifica so that people can make informed decisions regarding their travel. And as a result, State Route 1 Transportation Operation Systems Improvement Project will improve traffic operations and public safety system performance and minimize the duration and impacts of non-recurring congestion due to incidents in roadway and tunnel closures. Within the project, there are 2 proposed locations in Pacifica, described in detail within this presentation and the staff report for the Planning Commission's consideration tonight. This project was previously considered and approved by the Pacifica Planning Commission in 2022. However, the applicant did not start work within the time frame that the permit was valid, and the permit has since expired. Excuse me. And the applicant is therefore reapplying for project reapproval. No changes have been made to the project since last reviewed and approved by the Planning Commission. To provide a description of the project, we'll start with the site background. The project is proposed within the Caltrans right-of-way along State Route 1 and in the coastal zone, and would be governed by local coastal programs, not only in Pacifica, but in San Mateo County and Half Moon Bay for the respective locations. Caltrans is seeking the appropriate permits as required from each respective local permitting jurisdiction. And so tonight, Pacifica will be considering the two locations within the city limits. And so on your screen, you have location 9-1 on the left and location 9-2 on the right. Location 9-1 is at the intersection of State Route 1 and Reina Del Mar Avenue. And we'll go through the description of that first. And the second location, location 9-2, is located north of the Pacifica Police Department on an adjacent parcel. So location 9-1 is located at post mile 42.58. Work would occur at the northeastern corner of the intersection of State Route 1 and Reina Del Mar, and would include the installation of a wireless detection system on an existing traffic signal pole connecting to existing power. Wireless detection systems are small wireless devices used for traffic monitoring. You see them there on the left of your screen. They use sensors to detect the presence of vehicles. The approximate size of the module would be about 9 inches by 7.5 inches by 7 inches, and they're generally neutral in color and are mounted approximately 25 feet high on a pole shaft. So on the right is the actual pole that will be located at the intersection, and again, the left is just the representation of what that wireless detection system will look like. Moving on to location 9-2. This is proposed just north of location 9-1 at post mile 42.77 and would occur along the eastern side of State Route 1, north of the Pacifica Police Station. And work would include installation of a variable message sign, which I'll call VMS moving forward. The installation of 100 feet of Midwest guardrail system, which I'll refer to as the guardrail, along the northbound shoulder, and 200 feet of trenching to supply power to the VMS from an existing electrical cabinet. A controller cabinet and a service cabinet near the sign would also be installed. Variable message signs are electronic traffic signs that are used to provide motorists with real-time traffic safety and guidance information about traffic, congestion, and emergencies. The VMS would be off most of the time. It would be programmed to be lit only when needed. The VMS would be approximately 12 feet wide by 5 feet tall and installed on 2 wooden poles. The VMS foundations would require 2 holes. Each hole would be 12 inches in diameter and 6 feet in depth. A new controller cabinet and service cabinet would be installed for power. The controller cabinets and service cabinets would be placed on new concrete pads. These foundations would require excavation. Controller and service cabinets would be placed adjacent to each other. And additionally, new pole boxes would be installed in the ground. And pole boxes are concrete boxes that are used to assist with wire pulling. The guardrail will be installed to protect the traveling public from colliding with fixed objects in the right-of-way, such as the VMS itself and associated infrastructure, to reduce the possibility and severity of runoff road collisions and for worker safety. There's an existing wildlife crossing sign proposed to be removed and reinstalled further up the highway to the north from the existing location. On the left side of the screen, you'll see that there's existing conditions, which shows that wildlife crossing sign at the top of the screen, and at the bottom is the proposed site. So you'll see that there's the guardrail, the service cabinets, the VMS itself, and then further down the highway is the relocated wildlife crossing sign. On the right is the general site plan showing the location of the VMS, the guardrail, the electric trenching, and associated cabinets. I also just wanted to provide a little background to the 2022 decision here. In September of 2022, location 9-2 was revised to its current proposed location at the direction of the Planning Commission. Caltrans worked with the city and found the location north of the police station to be a viable alternative to the original proposed location. The Planning Commission concluded that the current location 9-2 that you see on your screen would avoid the Commission's concern of conflicting with future development, as the Pacifica Police Station property is already developed, and the property to the north, the Shell Dance Nursery, is located and owned by the Golden Gate National Recreation Area, and there's no foreseeable development at either of these properties. Additionally, the Planning Commission found that the alternative north site here would benefit more of the motorists within the community since it's located north of Reina Del Mar Avenue, where previous locations were located south of that intersection. And finally, pursuant to California Environmental Quality Act, Caltrans is the lead agency for the CEQA that was prepared for the project and adopted in May of 2021. A final notice of determination was filed with the Office of Planning Research on May 11, 2021, and upon relocating location 9-2, Caltrans reviewed the environmental impacts of the alternative site for the VMS and associated improvements, and determined that the May 2021 initial study with negative declaration remained valid and no further CEQA documentation was necessary based on the findings that the project site would not introduce new environmental impacts beyond those documented in the May 2021 final initial study and negative declaration. And pursuant to California Environmental Quality Act, the City of Pacifica is considered a responsible agency, and in its role, the city's Planning Commission made the finding in June and September of 2022 that it reviewed the Caltrans adopted initial study negative declaration, and that the initial study negative declaration was compliant for purposes of CEQA review or the project. And as described in the staff report, staff finds that the project currently under consideration by the Planning Commission remains unchanged and has not identified any of the circumstances that would require a subsequent EIR. Therefore, barring any new evidence submitted before the public hearing on the project, the city must consider the negative declaration adopted by Caltrans compliant for purpose of CEQA review for reapproving the coastal development permit of the project. This concludes the staff presentation, and the applicant team is here virtually. They would like to introduce themselves and answer any questions that the Planning Commission may have. And with that, I yield back to the chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before we start and allow the applicant team to introduce themselves, does anyone have any burning questions? No? All right, let's let the applicant team introduce themselves.
Thank you. And I have a list of names for the applicant team if you'd like me to read them off, or...
They're in there.
Great, okay, perfect.
I can start. I'm Kimberly White. I'm the landscape architect that's been involved with the project.
Okay, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Zachary Gifford. I'm Caltrans Environmental Analysis Branch Senior. I was kind of waiting for Nandini Shadar to be promoted, please. That would be great if she hasn't been. She's our project manager.
Hello, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, great. My name is Nandini Shradhar, and I'm the project manager. I'm sorry I'm having a few issues with Zoom on my computer. And of course, we have a team. Zach and Kimberly introduce themselves. We have staff from construction and design. Abdul, you want to introduce yourself?
He doesn't seem so excited, to be honest with you.
Construction.
Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you. Yolanda Williams. For 4 years, we're over.
Hello?
Hello, Chetan?
What's the matter?
Anyway, so we have a team here, and we're here to answer your questions. Steph has done a great job of presenting the project, so could we move on to the questions, and I can just.
And you share some event, right?
Thank you for the introductions. You will have some time at the end if you want to add additional presentation. At this point, I think we can probably open up for public comment and then come back for commissioner questions and deliberations. I do not have speaker cards for this. Do we have anyone on the phone or on Zoom with raised hands?
Yes. You may unmute yourself. And
Oh,
begin speaking.
before you do, since we do, can you tell me how many raised hands we have on Zoom?
We have 2 raised hands, but I believe one may be part of the applicant team.
Okay, so we'll cap public comment at those 1 to 2 raised hands. I'm going to reread our initial public advisement that these meetings are a limited public forum, meaning that there are rules for commenting at these meetings. Comments on non-agendized items must address matters within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city, and comments on agendized items must relate to that specific item. If comments do not fall into one of these categories, the city will provide you with a second warning to stay within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city or on topic. If the warning is not followed, the chair will direct the city clerk to cut off the microphone, and throughout this warning system, I will seek the assistance of the Assistant City Attorney in identifying comments not related to the agenda item or not within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city. First caller, please.
Our first caller is iPhone. You may unmute yourself and state your name for the record.
My name is Steve Franks.
Please go ahead.
I'm just wondering why you would remove a wildlife crossing sign from where wildlife actually does cross and replace it somewhere else.
Thank you for the question. This is not a question and answer, so you have 3 minutes for your comment. If you have additional comments, you can use the rest of your 3 minutes, or members of the commission may choose to re-ask your question for you after public comment.
Okay, they can re-ask a question for me then.
Okay, thank you for your question and comment. Is that the last raised hand, or was there one more?
There's one additional raised hand. I believe it's for the applicant team, if they would like to unmute themselves and correct us, if that's the case.
Let's see if it's someone for public comment, and if it's the applicant team, then I will come back to them.
So Min Lee, you may unmute yourself.
Hi, my name is Min Lee. I am part of the applicant team. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So with that, we will close public comment, and I will bring it back to the commission to ask questions, or I will offer the applicant team time to address the question from the public, but I will re-ask it if the applicant team does not address it.
We can address that. We're absolutely not removing the wildlife crossing sign. We are slightly relocating it is all. So it will still generally be in that area. We just need to move it a little bit because of the guardrail and the VMS sign. So it's just being shifted a little bit farther down.
Thank you very much for that clarification. Do any members of the commission have questions for staff or the applicant team? Commissioner Godwin.
I have a couple. Did you consider any public-private partnerships with traffic jam assist or traffic congestion warning system to meet this Caltrans message sign requirement in lieu of putting up a sign?
A part of this application that was not considered, but I defer to the applicant if they have any other sort of coordination that they've collaborated on. My understanding is that they haven't, so no.
Well, that's kind of surprising to me, because I recently downloaded Caltrans Quick Map, a project you guys have spent over $100 million on to provide traffic information to the public. Works fine on my cell phone in my limited few-day test, and it just seems to me you're trying to implement something here over and above this $100 million project a very limited utility. So I would like to understand, given all the messages that go on the message signs, go through QuickMap, it's available to every traveler in the state, citizen, non-citizen, available for free, and almost everybody owns a cell phone these days, and can put a mount for a couple dollars in their car. I'm still not getting the significance of doing this project now. It seems like you're years late.
I see
and
raised hands.
This technology is, pretty old.
I see raised hands from our applicant, and I believe they would want to address your question. So,
Good.
Caltrans team, why don't you go ahead and unmute yourself?
My name is Nandini Shradhar. I don't know whether I'd be able to address his question in its entirety, but the purpose of this VMS is to have a sign, have notifications displayed as and when incidents occur. So it's essentially an incident management system which connects with our traffic management center in Oakland. And if there is congestion, the system, the WDS and VMS work in conjunction with the TMC and is able to notify that there is congestion, and as a result, messages can be relayed to the traveling public. It's unclear to me whether cell phones can work in a similar manner.
Well, let me help you with that.
It can assist, but redundancy actually helps in enhancing safety along the route, especially when it's a two-lane highway in some areas. So, and the TMC again is monitored by by our CHP, and so there's an emergency response that can occur immediately, as opposed to not having that ability. So these VMS signs do help convey the message to the traveling public, and they can either get off of the highway before they reach the tunnel. That's why the placement is where it is in Pacifica, and prevent congestion from occurring in the tunnel and right before that. So that's pretty much. I don't know whether Min Lee can add to it add more to it regarding the technology that's being used.
Well, I can help you. QuickMap says it provides real-time messages, all the messages from Caltrans. And they don't say delayed, they say real-time. Now,
but then again, it's not necessarily, we don't want motorists to be looking at their screens while they're driving. So that's another concern that Caltrans has. Having these variable message signs do help motorists in terms of, it's been used in other areas, in Monterey, in Carmel, and on Highway 50. And so it has provided some benefit. Yes, we have these other tools that are available on our phone, but you really don't want a motorist to be looking at their phones rather than the highway, or where looking in the direction of the way they're heading. So that's another reason we felt that this is important. There have been other routes where we use portable changeable message signs. Min can probably talk about that. But once there is congestion, once there is an accident already on the route, it's very difficult to get those portable message signs in place in time. And therefore, it really helps Caltrans out to be able to, have these VMSs in place so that emergency responders can navigate and be at the location they're supposed to be.
Thank you for that response. Do you have any other questions?
Yes. A lot of these system provides audio output, so you don't have to look at a screen. I'm not understanding why looking at a cell phone screen is a problem, but looking at a sign isn't a problem. It seems to both take your eyes off the road. And as opposed to audio, which you don't have to take your eyes off the road. I'm not following your logic, but maybe you can expand on it and explain it a bit more completely.
I'll redirect this to our technology expert if they can speak to that. Min Lee is aware of the technology that's being used, and I'm wondering whether he can add to it. But you have to agree that looking at a screen on the side of the road is better than looking down at your cell phone. It's more visible, and it's like looking at a billboard, which is right. You're not taking your eyes off of the road. So I don't know whether Min has anything to add. Min, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think as you said it before, Nandini, that it's really a supplemental to what you have on your phone. If you're not running an app as you start your drive, you won't get these messages as well. I understand that, a lot of times people do have their GPS running, but if you're familiar with the route, it's more likely that, you may not have the GPS. I agree that I do check travel times and routes prior to my departure, but if I'm familiar with the route, a lot of times I won't have the GPS on. So it's a good supplement to what technology is already existing on the phones, but and it pretty much provides an additional source of information that if you're not, if you don't have the cell phone readily available, you'll be able to still get the message.
Okay, thank you for that response, that very detailed response. I don't have any lights. I don't have questions personally. I do want to reframe this. So I do see a light, but let me finish my statement. I do want to reframe this for myself that this was a 4-hour conversation 2 years ago, and we asked for a relocation of the sign, and I appreciate Caltrans making the change that this commission asked for. So I do not have questions. Commissioner or Vice Chair Berman, I see you have a
Yep.
comment.
Yeah.
Followed by Commissioner Ferguson.
And I appreciate that a lot of what was discussed in public comments that came through on this project 3 years ago was included in the agenda. I know we discussed this in 2022, and now I want to bring it up again because I believe the Caltrans applicant team mentioned some benefits to motorists heading towards the tunnel. What sign location will be serving southbound 1 in Pacifica? Because I only see a northbound.
Well, it would seem logical to have it before you enter the tunnel. So I think the southbound location, there is one in Daly City. And if I'm not mistaken, I think that we have a sign in Daly City at State Route 1 in Clarinada. And that would notify motorists traveling in the southbound direction.
Yeah, since we're the Pacifica Planning Commission, I mean, my biggest interest is benefiting our residents here in Pacifica, and a majority of them likely will not see that sign before entering the tunnel. I do know on occasion we have a portable sign that is along Highway 1 southbound, and is that a Caltrans portable sign on a trailer, or is that a city-owned one? Because sometimes it has city-related information, but that's often very beneficial because we'll be notified for tunnel closures or maintenance. Is that a city sign or is that a Caltrans sign?
We're not aware. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
We're not aware that it's a city-owned or Caltrans trans sign. We can ask Caltrans if they know.
Okay. Min, I don't know if that was you trying to speak. Do you know the sign that I'm talking of? It's near Rockaway Beach usually.
Yeah, I don't know Kuni sign in that area. You know, we have to go internally and ask around. Sorry.
Yeah. No. Yep.
If I may, I think for events and construction-related activities, we do sometimes tend to use those portable message signs. Don't we, Min?
Yeah. I mean, there's events that you know, or special, you know, closures or road work. Sometimes we use that if there are no CMS or VMS available in the area, advising drivers.
However, I'd like to highlight that the fact that getting those portable signs in place, especially when there's congestion, is a challenge for us. Since this is to facilitate and help incident management along the route, it helps us to have a permanent sign there that could connect with the TMC.
Totally agree. And actually, I'm going to echo a comment from a few years ago from our former planning director, Wehrmeister. It would be critical and beneficial to have a permanent sign on southbound Highway 1 before Pacificans head towards the tunnel. And I know that wasn't addressed in these sign locations, and we talked about it when this item previously came through Planning Commission. I understand that a sign location on southbound Highway 1 is not before us tonight for review, but in my opinion, location 9-2 is significantly less beneficial than a VMS on southbound Highway 1 to inform Pacificans of tunnel closures, emergencies, or detours. So I don't have any other further questions. My other comment, and I think it was mentioned in public comments throughout the years, that there's a lot of traffic on Highway 1 in Pacifica, and the hope is that Caltrans can use funding to help remedy that traffic in lieu of signs that I don't know are quite beneficial, such as this one. So that's it.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Commissioner Ferguson, followed by Commissioner Redfield.
No, she took my question, just clarifying that this doesn't help any traffic going towards the tunnels in any way. Yeah.
Commissioner Redfield.
Thank you, Chair. I just had a couple quick questions. Why was the initial permit allowed to expire? The common practice is ask for a timely extension. So it seems 3 years went by without anything happening. So just a curious question on that.
Well, if I may, the initial permit was issued in, was it August or September of 2022? And then construction was expected to start in 2023, by the summer of 2023. However, there were delays, and eventually the actual construction, although it kickstarted in the fall of 2023, the actual work began in mid-2024, sometime in June. And typically, the coastal development permits on an average are issued for 2 years, but there's something different about Pacifica. It expired within a year. And we have to admit it's a bit of an oversight on our part. We didn't expect it to have expired by the time we started actually got involved in the construction activities in June of 2024. And we didn't take the necessary action to request a time extension before the permit expired. The permit expired within a year in October of 2023. Right. So it's on us, but we didn't expect construction to get delayed as much, but it somehow did. And is there anything, Zach, would you like to add anything?
Just a couple things. That was a good explanation. Thank you. I appreciate that. It was a curiosity item. On packet page 109, the fifth paragraph, the last sentence should read Pacifica Police Department, not Planning Department. And that's for the location north of the Pacifica Police Department, not the Planning Department. So just a clarification there. And one last thing was, it states the VMS will be installed on wooden poles. And that, from an engineering standpoint, to me was a kind of, what's the reasoning to use wooden and not aluminum poles, just for longevity? And it just seemed like an antiquated installation system, given the environment. That's it.
If I recall correctly, I believe this has to do with visual impacts. So I'll let our landscape architecture, it's more to do with how it could potentially blend into the coastal environment. So Kimberly, you want to talk about this?
Yeah, for sure. I'm having trouble remembering specifically. I can say generally that was a big consideration for this project, and that was something brought up with Coastal Commission and through the coastal development permit process, that they would prefer materials that are more rural in nature and, in keeping with the kind of visual theme of the area. And the wooden posts fit that more traditionally. I think it is also just a standard for us to use wooden posts. When we say wooden posts, though, these are large member lumber. It's not like a, insubstantial wooden post. It's something more substantial than that. But I'm not 100% familiar with exactly what the detail has. So it is a standard, and sum up, it is a standard, and it was also in consideration of visual character.
All right, thank you for that explanation.
Okay. Question to this side of the dais. Your comments, which I agree with, are they going to affect your vote tonight, or are you feeling like you can support the item before us?
Not affected, and I'm prepared to make a motion.
Okay. Well, I guess, given the opportunity, what's before us tonight are the sign locations that were presented in the staff report, correct? Is it in our purview to request additional locations?
I would assume that additional locations haven't been studied under CEQA or NEPA.
The permit before you tonight is for a CDP, and unless it has to do with making the findings for that CDP, you wouldn't be able to require any additional locations. You could request or ask if the applicant is willing to consider more locations. This is a multiple-year project that has been scoped back in 2021, so they may or may not be willing to consider that or provide you with information on future projects that overlap with your concerns.
Understood, and thank you, that's, because I remember I very desperately requested it 3 years ago when we spoke of this, and that's consistent with the response I received at that time. If I had known that it was going to take 3 years and they were going to have to come back anyways, I probably would have been more demanding, but I just want to make my opinion known. I think we absolutely need a permanent sign on southbound 1 for Pacificans to use for information, especially approaching the tunnel. But I'll look forward to hopefully seeing that in the next round of VMSs. So no,
Okay.
I'm ready to vote.
Okay. We've got more lights. Commissioner Davis, followed by Commissioner Redfield.
So to the point, I would agree that it would be far more effective on southbound, and I understand it's not within our purview tonight, but I am curious how the locations were determined, what the criteria was and what the study was at a high level. It's curiosity. And then after that answer, I have one other question as well. Thank you.
Yeah, I would defer that question to the applicant team, how they selected the locations.
Would the applicant like to answer? Oh, thank you.
Sure. I'll have to ask Minley and our electrical staff to jump in with a response.
Typically, these type of message signs are placed at a location where it provides enough time for a driver to take an alternate route. In this case, the VMS is installed northbound, just past the police station, and the opportunities there to either take Route 1, where you could jump off and go on Shark Park, drive up to 280, or continue on Route 1 and divert onto Route 35 as an alternate of getting around an incident that may be on Highway 1, or alternatively an incident anywhere along Route 35 as well. So the signs are, basically installed at a point where drivers have sufficient time to make a detour or take an alternate route as incidents present itself in downstream. Thank you.
Thank you for the response. It makes sense, particularly with our limited exits from town. I can understand the logic behind it now. I just had one other quick question, and it may be a really obvious one, but it is noted that the construction may cause some lane closures necessary on State Route 1, and it's only 2 lanes there anyway. I would assume, but didn't want to, that we would try and avoid commute hours, especially since this is a non-urgent project. I mean, it's important to get it completed, but it's not like it's critical road repair or something. If you could address that.
I just wanted to say that assuming this permit is approved and assuming we obtain it by the 3rd week of August, the work that's left to be done in Pacifica, that would only take a few weeks. And the project does propose some lane closures. These lane closures are available for the public to see on our what is that called? I have my construction staff here. It's called an LCS system, the lane closure system, I think. And that's available for the public to view at any time. And the plan is to complete the work that's proposed in Pacifica within a few weeks. And so by the end of September, we should be done we might have some loose ends to tie up in October, but much of the work that's been proposed as part of this project has been completed. It's just this area that's still pending.
Okay,
And
thank you.
Chetan, did you want to add anything?
I think I'm going to move on to Commissioner Redfield at this point, and then I'm going to poll this side of the commission as well to see if any of the comments will affect your ability to vote for the item before us.
Just had one final comment since we're on the subject of signs and Caltrans, and we have your ear. When, how, and why has overgrowth on the shoulders and the medians along the corridor of the exact corridor we're talking about not been addressed in decades? It is a severe hazard to emergency vehicles on the shoulder, and during winter storms, the only thing that ever is cleared are down trees, and it has not been addressed in a long time. It is a severe hazard along the entire corridor of Highway 1 in Pacifica. Thank you.
I think what you're bringing up is a maintenance issue. Unfortunately, Caltrans is made up of a number of divisions, and each one has their own specialty to focus on. We are part of the project development team, and we can certainly take this message back to our maintenance, field maintenance and maintenance staff in the district offices. If you're able to email this information to me, I can certainly pass it on to our maintenance staff and see if anything can be done about it. However, this specific project will not be able to address that issue during construction.
Is staff able to send an email addressing Commissioner Redfield's issue to the Caltrans team so that they can forward it to the appropriate people?
Certainly,
Thank you
yes.
so
Certainly,
much.
yeah.
Thank you.
Certainly, yes, yes. It would help us if you show us the location on a map or something like that, or a plan.
Thank you for your response. So moving it back to the commission, Commissioner Davis, I got a thumbs up, I got a thumbs up. Commissioner Godwin? I got a.
No, I'm going to vote.
And everyone knows how they're going to vote. So I want to thank the commission for the comments. I agree with a lot of them, including the one on the tunnel specifically. So to our Caltrans partners, I hope you can bring that back to your development team, that we would love another one. With that, I would like to entertain a motion, and I believe Commissioner Ferguson, you had indicated you were ready.
I move the Planning Commission finds the State Route 1 Traffic Operations System Improvements Project Post Miles 04 SM-1-26.43 to 47.20. Initial study with negative declaration, May 2021, schedule number, 20200802229, prepared by California Department of Transportation District 4, adequate for the purposes of complying with the California Environmental Quality Act, and approves coastal development permit CDP-468-24 by adopting the resolution included as attachment A to the staff report, including conditions of approval in Exhibit A to the resolution, and incorporates all maps and testimony into the record by reference.
Is there a second?
Done.
Second. All right, we have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Motion by Commissioner Ferguson, seconded by Commissioner Redfield. That motion passes 5 to 1.
All right, thank you very much. That will take us to our last public hearing, item 4, rezone from R1 and CR with HPD overlay to PD/HPD, including approval of a development plan DP 8722 and specific plan SP 18022 to allow for single-family residential use and reclassification of the HPD overlay to permanent land disturbance consistent with the Pacifica Municipal Code. May we please have a staff report?
Thank you, Chair Hauser. We have Senior Planner James Lynn, who will be giving the staff report this evening.
Good evening, Chair Hauser, Vice Chair Berman, and members of the Commission. My name is James Lynn, Senior Planner with the Planning Division of the Community Development Department, here to present item number 4 on tonight's agenda, file 2022-037, 650 Cape Breton Drive for a rezone development plan and subsequent plan. The project before you this evening is an application for a rezone from R-1 single-family residential and C-R commercial recreation with a HPD hillside preservation overlay to PD planned development with HPD overlay, including approval of a development plan and specific plan to allow for single-family residential use and reclassification of the HPD overlay to permit land disturbance. The subject site is located at the end of Cape Breton Drive within the Park Pacifica neighborhood. The current zoning designation of the subject site, which is comprised of 2 parcels, R-1 single-family residential with the HPD overlay and C-R commercial recreation with the HPD overlay. The general plan land use designation for both parcels are open space / agricultural / residential. The project is seeking Planning Commission approval of the subsequent plan and a recommendation to the City Council to approve a rezoning and development plan, which are classified as planning entitlements on this slide. The applicant is seeking these entitlements in order to apply a retroactive grading permit for the unpermitted grading activity involving the removal of sand and soil, which was a part of the notice of violation issued on May 20, 2021, included as Attachment C. The city's findings had concluded that approximately 100 to 300 cubic yards of sand and soil were moved from within the covered arena to other parts of the site around the perimeter of the arena. The grading activity had occurred without proper approvals, and per Pacifica Municipal Code, PMC Section 9-4.2256 requires the reclassification of the Hillside Preservation District through the planned development process before land disturbances can occur. As stated earlier, the current zoning designation for both sites are R-1 single-family residential and C-R commercial recreation with the HPD overlay. The rezoning of R-1 and C-R to PD planned development would require a development plan in order to define allowable uses, and a specific plan which would provide technical and design details necessary to implement a development plan. For this project, the proposed development plan includes the identification of establishing the existing single-family residential use identified in Exhibit A within Attachment A of the staff report. And the specific plan is requesting approval of the retroactive grading that had occurred for the relocation of arena sand and soil. Identified on the plans as Attachment D is the proposal for the installation of a prefabricated carport in order to meet the parking requirements identified under the Pacifica Municipal Code Section 9-4.2259, which requires 2 off-street covered parking spaces for single-family residential detached dwelling units. The applicant has identified a few options of similar dimensions and type as a precaution in case by the time of the application approval, one of the options is discontinued or sold out. The proposed installation of the prefabricated carport is not part of the land use entitlements before the commission this evening and would only require a building permit given the square footage for the proposed carport exceeding 120 square feet. The project does not involve any new construction or demolition of existing structures. The project plans highlight the post-grading conditions and erosion control measures, including but not limited to hydroseeding, to contain soil piles in their current location. No additional grading or removal or relocation of sand and soil from the property will occur. For the reasons analyzed in the staff report, staff recommends that the Planning Commission find the project exempt from California Environmental Quality Act recommend City Council approve rezone RZ-211-22 and Development Plan DP-87-22 and approve specific plan SP-180-22 by adopting the resolution included as Attachment A to the staff report, including conditions of approval in Exhibit B, and incorporate all maps and testimonies into the record by reference. And that concludes my presentation. Both staff and the applicant are available this evening for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lin. Before we open up to the applicant, I want to allow the commission to ask questions. I want to make sure that I understood something. I think I misheard you. Were you saying that no sand would be relocated in this, or that the sand that was relocated illegally would be moved back?
Appreciate the question. So for clarification, the statement from my presentation is that no further grading actions will occur. So
Except oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no worries. So the sand and soil that had already been relocated as part of the notice of violation, that is, no further action is being proposed for that. No further grading activities proposed from here on out. But instead, they will be installing the soil erosion control measures as part of the application.
So in other words, the soil that was graded will remain in place. The soil and sand that was graded will remain in place.
Where it is now.
Exactly.
So this is really documenting.
Correct.
A permit for erosion control measures.
Well, documenting
an illegal action and then the subsequent erosion control.
Yes, allowing the grading that had occurred to be authorized through a grading permit.
Okay. I have more questions, but I want to open it to the rest of the commission. Commissioner Godwin, please.
I've got one question. Wouldn't it be less controversial and more consistent to amend the Hillside Preservation District part of the municipal code to allow the planning director to issue a grading permit exception or a retroactive grading permit using an administrative process rather than rezoning the site? And that would also fix any similar future problems on any other hillside parcel. Why wasn't that approach taken?
Thank you, Commissioner Godwin, for the question. That wasn't assessed, and it wasn't part of the proposed application for this evening. A zoning text amendment would require additional analysis on how that would be changed and what would change in the zoning code, and that wasn't evaluated as part of this application.
But wouldn't that make a whole lot more sense to fix this for every parcel where this situation might come up, rather than rezoning this parcel, opening up some new possibilities and only solving the problem on a single parcel?
That's a potential, but the unique part about Hillside Preservation District is that we evaluate each site individually. So I can't speak to other sites that might have a similar issue, but you do raise an interesting point.
Thank you. That was one of my questions. I'm not seeing any other folks. Oh, Commissioner Ferguson.
I do have a follow-up question. I guess I'm at a little bit of a loss of procedurally how this came about, because I see grading work going on single-family residential projects all over the city that never comes before us as a commission. I get that this is a substantial amount of dirt, 100 to 300 cubic yards. That's somewhere between 10 and 25 fully loaded dump trucks is an enormous amount of dirt to move around. But is there some specific thing that triggers? I'm thinking specifically of like projects off of Brighton Road that I've watched move at like what seems like an enormous amount of dirt in the last few years for a single family home, but this is obviously a bigger property than a single family home. Anytime you're constructing any residence on an HPD property or doing anything with it, you're going to move some amount of dirt, but is there an allowable amount of dirt to regrade with within an HPD that doesn't require rezoning?
So as part of the HPD overlay district, there is that formula for land coverage control. So long as the proposed development, which would also include grading activities, so long as that is within that threshold of allowable land coverage for that site, then they would not be required to bring that application.
I think Commissioner Ferguson, if I may, Chair Hauser, I think you were asking a question specifically about a grading permit requirement and what constitutes grading. Is that?
No, I'm wondering why single-family homes in other parts of Pacifica are able to conduct grading activities without it coming to the Planning Commission, and then this grading activity, which obviously there's a non-compliance portion of this. Well, I've never seen one of those before us in my 5 years either. Why this one specifically requires a Planning Commission rezone to address versus whatever other method all of the other grading in Pacifica does.
Yeah, and I think it's just a function of this property being in the HPD district. I mean, there are, I'm sure, other grading permit violations throughout the city, but in order to address this particular grading permit.
Got it. This one's under a microscope.
Right.
Got it.
Because it's in the HPD.
I'm seeing in our code, and maybe this is not the right thing, but there's something about 50 cubic yards. Oh, that's a coastal zone combining district. Yeah.
Yeah, so any land disturbance would be considered development as part of the Hillside Preservation District, and any development proposals within the Hillside Preservation District are required to pursue the procedures under a planned development. So under planned development, you're required to submit a development plan and specific plan
And
to do
that
so.
is the only way that they can do it is under a PD zone.
That's correct. Mhm.
Okay, I'm satisfied.
We've been getting complaints and like documentation for the past 3 years on way more than just dirt moving. Are those, can we talk a little bit specifically about how other violations are being dealt with or consistency with occupancies of buildings?
So, Chair Hauser, I mean, I think it's somewhat relevant in that this application is before you because of a code enforcement violation, but you know, just like any other violations of the Pacifica Municipal Code, it goes through the code enforcement process. So, and most of that is complaint driven. So when there are complaints related to any property, code enforcement, police, whatever department is responsible will usually respond.
Are there other code enforcement cases that are open on this property?
I'm not aware of any. I don't have that information.
We don't have that information.
Okay. Oh, we have another late. Commissioner Redfield.
Just a quick correction on packet page 391, Exhibit B, Condition 13. It states, you can read it directly, roadways shall be maintained clear of construction materials, equipment, storage, and debris, especially mud and dirt tracked onto Oceana Boulevard and Pacific Avenue. Those clearly were not relevant to this particular location. So just a typo correction there.
Thank you. We can.
Thank you. I believe the correct street would be Cape Breton. So we can correct that if we can read that into the motion.
Okay. If there are no additional questions, and we will, oh, go ahead, Commissioner Davis.
I'm not sure where public comment is.
Public comment is going to happen, and then there will be time to address additional questions after that.
Okay, and I'm going to hold my question.
Okay.
After public comment.
Okay.
You're gonna have the
Pardon me?
I'm sorry. You're going to have the applicant presentation next?
Yes, that's correct. So the applicant is here. They will have up to 10 minutes to present. Then we'll have public comment. And then the applicant will have 3 minutes, up to 3 minutes for rebuttal. So the applicant is here. Please go ahead.
thank you for giving us the opportunity to come here tonight. My name is Joe Tootle. I'm a consulting engineer representing the property owner. I believe calling in is Emily Mahan, also a consulting engineer, as well as legal counsel that is representing the property owners. So as was stated during the staff report, the property owner is not proposing any new development nor the demolition of any existing infrastructure. And therefore, we don't have a presentation to present a development because there is no development being proposed. Tonight's hearing is really required by the city, as was stated earlier, so that the property owners can request a retroactive grading permit that resulted in a nuisance order for work back in 2021, so they'd like to abate that. And this process is what the city staff had recommended to the property owner as a way to achieve that obligation that they've agreed to get the retroactive grading permit. So without a presentation, we'd be happy to answer any questions. If it would help for us to reserve our allotted time at the end to answer more questions after the public has had an opportunity to comment, we'd be happy to do that. And then I guess I'd give anybody else who's online a chance to say anything if they wish.
Assistant Attorney Bizzano, I believe if the applicant decides to bank their time to after public comment, is that allowable, or is 3 minutes the maximum? Can't remember.
Maximum. I think I'll say it's up to the chair.
The power.
I think the standard is 3 minutes. I don't know that it's written as a mandate for 3 minutes. I
Okay,
think.
we'll keep it to 3 minutes. Thank you.
All right.
Okay, thank you. And we'll reserve questions for after, and those will not be counted in the time period.
All right.
All right, so with that, I will move on to public comment. Reminder that each speaker will have up to 3 minutes, and that if you haven't yet wished to speak, please do fill out a yellow speaker card and hand it to staff, who will pass it up to the commissioners. I have Cliff Lawrence first, followed by Mark Hubble, and then Kelly Moresco.
Good evening. Cliff Lawrence, and thank you for the opportunity to thank you again for all the work that you put into this. I can't imagine doing it myself. So I'll tell you that I do appreciate it. Tonight's hearing, this property's captured quite a bit of attention and concern. It's known as 650 Cape Breton, sometimes called the Stables. I saw a picture, it was called, identified as Coastside Corral at one time. It's also been previously described as an integral part of the early development in the era of the city development of Pacifica. At least once, in 2020, was proposed as a historical site declaration. It was purchased in 2013 and again in 2020 by an opaque entry identity having ties to an organization with a history of being unneighborly. Soon after the purchase, there were reports that the owners were destroying stables. How was that? In the city's active applications, this 2022 filing was labeled as for a single-family residential and describing it as retroactively authorizing grading. The conversation so far this evening has helped me understand how we got to where we are and what we've called this, what we've called it. But I still, I like others, find this kind of curious. It did ask the question, was there not something more involved here than was being declared? So 3 years later, here we are at a public hearing, and today we're confronted with the effects of SB 1214, which in the name of copyright protection has withheld public documents from the public's view on the internet, despite varied and multiple requests from the public. Has the public been removed from the process? How does one examine, analyze, and meaningfully comment on vast amounts of data with only 72 hours to review the relevant material? The consequences are that you, our Planning Commission, are now, even more than before, the vanguard of what control the city will have on the future of Pacifica. The alternative is to advocate these decisions to those whose focus is their own gratification. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Oh, thank you, Vice Chair. I don't think the 1-minute warning is going off, and it's helpful to the public.
Apologies for that. I think we have the warning on now.
Fabulous, thank you. Okay. Sorry about that, Mr. Lawrence. Okay. Got Mark Hubble, followed by Kelly, and then Kathy Maresco.
Hello, and thank you for this opportunity. I'd like to express some of my knowledge about that area. 40 years ago when I moved there, and it was shortly after I moved there, in fact, it was the first winter, a huge teardrop came and was sliding down the hill right behind my house, the one I just bought. So that is on the side, the same slope, the same ridge line as goes around the quarry. And so fortunately for me, the Army Corps of Engineers and the U.S. government had just bought that land, so huge giant helicopters came and lowered down grading equipment and all this other kinds of stuff. And, that was because the U.S. government bought that land. They sold it now, so there is no angels from heaven that are going to help anybody. So I know that I've been hiking that area for probably easily 40 years. And we got to remind ourselves that we live next to and on top of fault lines, earthquake fault lines. And I don't know how you think you could predict that, but we know where they are, and we know that most of them are right below that area. And so I've seen a lot there, and I really worry about any sort of any sort of housing or buildings or whatever that might go there. Now, I have one other concern as well. I started a group, and we maintain the monitor the contaminants in San Pedro Creek. And we all know that San Pedro Creek is what? The most polluted, dangerous, whatever creek
1 minute.
in California. Anyway, so we've checked where, all the possibilities for those contaminants to come from. Recently, we kind of figured out, hey, this quarry thing, they've got, 30, 40 years of horse manure and hay coming down there. That's just an open sewer system with large sewers. So whenever it rains or whatever, all that goes down to the creek, And the creek goes out to the ocean, and that's where they have doggy surfing contests one day a year. Of course, the rest of the year, it's too toxic to go there, according to the, way it's reported. So anyways, I just want to remind you that it's not an easy place to be. It is not, and there's all kinds of considerations that need to be made, especially because of the earthquake system. So thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Mark. All right, Kelly, followed by Kathy Maresco, followed by Lisa Funkhauser.
Hello, my name is Kelly Maresco, and my parents actually live on Park Pacifica.
As a teen, I leased a horse up at the stables with the old owners, April Schneider and Matt Farley. My mom and dad did not have to worry about me and my friends because they knew that I was safe, and they knew that the property was good. Now, having a church on a dead-end street is a bad idea because it creates more traffic. Now the traffic coming from the church is bad because people going up and down the street are going way over the speed limit, and the church seems closed off to the community and unfriendly. We as a community have never met anybody from the church at all. In Pacifica, we're also worried about fire safety and nervous. We do not have access to the trail to get out as an escape route, and I think this is the wrong property for a church and needs to be restored as a stable. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. All right, Kathy Maresco, followed by Lisa Funkhauser, and then Trent Wakenight.
Okay. Hello, my name is Kathy Maresco. I understand that the property at 650 Cape Breton, formerly the Park Pacifica Stables, is private property, and it's owned by the Iglesia Ni Cristo Church. However, this beautiful property is not zoned for the operations of a church. It's unfortunately that they did not understand the limitations of the property prior to purchasing it. My greatest concern is the number of people who would want to attend services and/or live on the property, the traffic on our street, and the overflow parking onto our streets. We did see this when they attempted to have services there. There was so much traffic, and all of the streets around us were all completely blocked with parked cars, which creates a very dangerous situation. Cape Breton is a very narrow street, and with that much traffic and parking, it would be very difficult for emergency vehicles to get in and very difficult for that number of people, in addition to the neighborhood, to evacuate. So there's real safety concerns with that. Also, the corral had been access to the trails above to Sweeney Ridge. In the initial conversations, this phone conversation we had with the church prior to their locating inside the property, and they said they would leave the access to the trails available to the community, but they haven't. Instead, they installed fences, locks, surveillance cameras, and even attempted to sue the people around the top of the street from parking too close to their fence. So they're very locked off up there. There's also the issue of noise. They have had services up there in the beginning, in the arena, with like a microphone, and we could all hear it. The noise back there bounces off the hills, and we can hear it very clearly. We went out to see what it was and found most of our neighbors were out in the street going, "What the heck is that?" Because there is real noise issues. So I think the church may have been misled to imagine that they could
1 minute.
operate the property the way they wanted to. So that's my concerns with this whole property. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Lisa, followed by Trent Wakenight, and then Lori.
Excuse me, Chair. Sorry, we're going to make sure we have the minute warning set up correctly. So if you could please hold on a moment before starting your public comment. Thank you. Thank you. You may go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Lisa Funkhauser. I live right next to the property at 650 Cape Breton. I wanted to say that we're very concerned about soil disturbance. I know that this has already occurred, and with this proposal, apparently there will be no more movement of soil. But let me give you some background on this. When the INC first started moving that soil and doing unpermitted construction at their property, and believe me, there's been a lot more done there than the city is aware of. They need to look closer. when they started doing that, they didn't properly remove their debris, which clogged their storm drain. That storm drain is behind a fence with multiple no trespassing signs. When heavy rains occurred in October 2021, the storm drain clog caused water to start pouring over the berm and into our home. It was night, and we had no way of knowing the cause of the flooding, and all our efforts were focused on mopping up the 2 inches of water in the front 2 rooms of our home. It's contaminated water. That soil has had horses, it's had manure, it's had a lot of things. And that water came into our home. It caused more than $26,000 in damage to our home that was not covered by insurance. When we asked INC to pay for the damage, they denied any culpability. This is consistent with their overall behavior. They believe they can do whatever they want without any real consequences. And now they are here today to say, hey, we did this, we weren't allowed to do it, but hey, let us get away with it. That's what this is about. I understand the rezoning plans are conditioned on current uses despite the new classification, but I do not believe INC will comply. There has to be another way, and thank you, I believe it was Commissioner Godwin, yes, who suggested a different way of doing this without rezoning. And I think that's the way we have to go. If we rezone, even with limits, it opens the door. This is an organization that will find loopholes, that will do things illegally and then try to come in the back door and get what they want. You can be sure that this is not the limit of their plans. Please do not allow them to rezone this property. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Trent Wakenight, followed by Lori, and then Sue.
Good evening, my name is Trent Wakenight. I'm a resident of Pacifica. And in light of this evening's agenda, I'd like to encourage a closer look at the Iglesia Ni Cristo, or INC, its presence here in Pacifica, its history, and the experiences of people in our community and around the world. There are many reports from former INC members, journalists, theologians, and academic researchers that raise serious questions about INC's practices. Allegations range from internal control of members to political bloc voting and the violent silencing of dissent. These claims are made widely available in public records and media coverage. Here in Pacifica, some neighbors living near the INC location, such as myself, on Cape Breton Drive, have reported troubling incidents ranging from verbal and physical harassment, property damage, intimidation, and repeated violations of city ordinances. While not everyone may be aware of these situations, it's important we listen closely to those who are directly affected. I am concerned about dialogue that opens the door to potential construction of a large-scale facility and housing by INC on this property. Pacifica deeply values its environment, neighborhood character, and public safety. We must carefully consider the implications: traffic, infrastructure strain, emergency response, and the long-term impact on our civic life. To be clear, this isn't about judging anyone's faith. People have a right to worship as they choose, but since INC functions with significant influence, property holdings, and strict top-down control, it's appropriate and responsible for a city to pause and ask thoughtful questions. As a neighbor and engaged resident, I simply ask that you exercise due diligence, speak with those directly impacted, and ensure that all groups, regardless of their size, reach, or financial influence, are held to the same standards of accountability and community care. Thank you for your time and commitment to serving Pacifica with integrity.
Thank you. All right, Lori, followed by Sue, and then Gwen, I believe this says Holst.
Hi, I'm Lori, and I have heard many residents ask, what are the plans for this property? It is critical for the planning commissioners to consider how any rezoning decisions will impact future plans for this property. There is a letter dated April 8, 2024, from the former planning director to the applicant, listing several items that needed to be submitted or resubmitted. Due to Senate Bill 1214 again, none of the documents in response to this letter have been available online. One of those required items in the letter asks the applicant to clarify the uses intended for the entirety of the site, including the various buildings throughout the site. This required item for the application stated previously, land uses in other portions of the site were dedicated to equestrian uses, and those uses will be assumed for all areas unless specified otherwise in this application. Has the applicant answered this required item? The only response I could find to that requirement was, future uses of the property should be restricted to those currently allowed in open space, agricultural, residential. That doesn't specify or clarify the uses intended for the entirety of the site. Or is the public to assume equestrian uses by this applicant? So I'm asking the planning commissioners to carefully review that letter and the responses from the applicant. There are many other required items in that letter to consider, such as 1, CEQA guidelines based on any proposed land uses other than equestrian uses. 2, a third-party geotechnical engineer was required to provide a plan review letter. Where is it? 3, contaminated soil above maximum permissible levels were questioned. The response basically seems to say, it's okay, and the soil appears to be suitable for residential reuse. Does some third-party testing and analysis need to be done? I'm starting to question if this application is complete at this time. I could highlight more, but I will rely on the vast knowledge and expertise of our planning commissioners to research and get answers for the public, because the public has had limited time and access to documents. I want to compliment Samantha Updegrave, who has been very responsive in trying to provide online access whenever possible. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Sue Degree and then Gwen Holst.
Hi, that last letter and all the questions pretty much covers just about everything. The thing here is that we have planning commissions, we have meetings like this. Why? Because the citizens have a right, according to our Constitution, for the pursuit of happiness, et cetera, all the good things we've grown up with. And we have a right to be here. If we start going to, let's make it administrative, Mr. Goodwin, no, please, oh God, don't go that way. If we just do administrative, rezoning is a process, and I have some knowledge about this area too. Yes, I was on council. I hate to keep saying that, but the truth of the matter is I was. That is ag. That was special. There was even a realtor living there and running horse things. Wouldn't you think they would go for development? That this can come to what it is already in a cul-de-sac is just hard. I think the word was nefarious. Hate to say nefarious, but that's how things feel when the community doesn't know what the heck is going on. This is very serious. The horse industry, like it or not, was an industry and an economy, and it was recreation for our people. The site where the Sanchez Art Center is another thing. These are similar things. These are things this community has wanted, encouraged, nourished, and enjoyed. When I was on council, we had a meeting with League of Cities, and it was in Atherton. And what was the first thing in that particular meeting? We talked about different topics. The topic was, cities beware. Developers have this idea. This is their code, their modus operandi. Do it wrong, just do it, and deal with it. Keep that in mind, please.
Thank you, Sue. Gwen Holst.
Hi, I'm probably one of Pacifica's newer residents. I moved here a little bit over a year ago, and so many of the activities at this property predate my time. However, I wanted to share my perspective as a potential home buyer in this area, which was I came to Pacifica and I was immediately blown away and fell in love with all of the nature, whether it's the ocean, whether it's the beautiful mountains behind my now home. In looking at Google Earth, I was so excited to see all the trails. And when we talk about hillside preservation, yes, we want to do so from a geological standpoint, but I would think also from a public access and use point. I was so excited that there were trails that would go up to the hill above my house that I could potentially use. And I was dismayed, in my first, couple of weeks of moving in to find just giant fences, blocking public access. Also in my home search, I read about some of the noise complaints and stories coming out of the use that, again, predated my time here in Pacifica. And as a potential buyer, I was a little scared. I was scared of some of the complaints and the, what I was hearing about what was coming out of this property. So mercifully, I've not had to deal with the noise complaints, the traffic, the thoroughfare of people who don't live in our neighborhood coming through, again, in a cul-de-sac, on a narrow road, and potential emergency services. So to the points that were raised here earlier, that is this just a zoning question? I don't think it is, although, many, if you look at the history of legal arguments, justice is often served in odd ways, and we're here, yes, on a zoning violation potentially, but there are larger issues here at stake. So thank you for considering the voices of people of Pacifica, and I didn't think I was going to see myself here at a planning committee meeting within 2 years of moving to the neighborhood, but thank you for being a voice of our public.
Thank you. All right. Dial-in information is on the screen. If you're dialed by phone, please press *9. And if you're calling by Zoom, you can raise your hand. Do we have any callers on Zoom or on the phone?
We currently have 2 callers. Aaron, you may unmute yourself.
Okay, and we'll cap it to those 2.
Chair Hauser, it looks like we have one more public speaker in the audience. I don't know if you want to take the speaker in the audience after the callers.
You know what? We'll take a moment on the 2 callers. I'm still going to cap it at those 2, but the speaker in the audience may go ahead and speak now. You have 3 minutes if you would like to speak.
My name's Robert, and I have been a property owner in Pacifica since 1967. And I'm opposed to this change of the desired change because it's dangerous to allow a traffic pattern change as much as this could allow. The traffic gets bad at times, and if you allow a cult or a business or a religion to change, it's not a good idea. It's practical for them because it's a cheap way to have it's a corral. That's what it's designed to be. And to put a religion in there where you're going to have on the West Coast a big traffic pattern, that's not a good idea. And it affects the whole area. I would suggest not to do it. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time. All right, we'll move to the callers, and we'll start with Aaron. Aaron, you have 3 minutes.
Good evening. This is Erin Macias. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Aaron.
Hi.
Hi, so I'm a concerned resident of Pacifica. So if you know the reference to Seinfeld, Frank Costanza says, "I've got a lot of problems with you people." You know, I know the city is struggling with limited staffing and they're trying to address a very unique set of violations with this church operating in the back of the valley. But in my opinion, the notice that was sent to the neighbors really does not properly relay what was agendized tonight. The notice that was mailed to the neighbors asked for a rezoning, development plan, and specific plan to allow for single-family residential use of currently existing residential use and uses consistent with single-family residential use. But there's a lot of red flags here. The first and most important piece of that is that this is not a single-family residence plan with a carport and illegal grading. This is a massive development coming to a landlocked parcel in the back of the valley. Iglesia Ni Cristo has a very broad digital footprint, and they have been very transparent about their plans for this particular site. They are a church, notably an international megachurch, with sites on a large parcel secluded away from public view. From their acquisition, they have destroyed a cultural resource in our city, and all without permits. So the general public has a very high interest in this project, and I feel that we should be able to see what is going to be proposed. A narrative form of what is being proposed that can align with the Senate bill restrictions. It should have been made available to us back in July when we requested it. PD zoning allows for deviations from standard development regulations if a superior design is achieved. And the HPD encourages the concentration of dwellings and other structures through clustering to preserve open space. So what does this mean here? Clusters of housing in each parcel while they chip away at our zoning ordinances. This parcel has been zoned in a manner for a long time, since the development in the back of the valley, that address the fact that there are limitations to ingress, egress, affecting certain arteries. They look at traffic, fire, landslides, etc. So what this project proposes is combining PD with HPD, and there is way too much latitude for interpretation here. Cape Breton proposes rezoning. This is something that the elected and appointed officials really need to consider seriously. The proposed zoning is intended to allow for creative land use, specifically intended for large-scale development. So why do all other large-scale developments require a full site development plan and a reasonable review? The general public, there's an EIR, there's multiple times for people to comment. This piecemeal approach absolutely cannot be approved. The public has a right to be informed. We should be able to understand what these zoning designations mean, not just to this parcel, but how it's going to affect the entire city's development landscape.
Thank you, Erin.
Excuse me, I didn't get my 1 minute warning.
Pardon me?
The 1 minute warning was present, yeah.
It was present?
Yeah.
Okay. Erin, I'm going to give you 10 seconds to finish your sentence, and then we're going to move on to the next speaker.
Okay, I will be brief. Okay. This large-scale project there's a digital footprint I would like you to look at. I would like to echo what Lori stated. We have not received any responses to the future use of this parcel. Please do not approve the rezoning of this parcel until a comprehensive site development plan is presented to the city and the EIR is made public. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and our last speaker?
Our last speaker is Richard. Richard, you may unmute yourself.
Thank you very much. You can hear me okay?
We can.
My name is Richard Zaromsky. I'm a neighbor around the corner on Glacier Avenue. I do appreciate all the work that the commission's put in, that the staff has put in, and do want to echo what all of the speakers have said tonight. The project and the proposal seems innocent enough. Just approve some dirt that was removed, a lot of dirt. Just zone the already existing home. But what's the bigger plan? And I think that's the question that you've heard from a lot of folks tonight. Commissioner Godwin said it well. Why are we doing this as a rezoning when there could be other options available? What are other possibilities? What's the use going to be of the area that was graded illegally? I think that the issue for the neighbors is what is the future use, not what's there right now. That house has been there. I've been here for over 20 years. The house and the stables have been there the entire time. Nobody's complained until the church moved in. The big issue for everybody that lives back in the back of the valley is no new development that's going to make, no change in the zoning that's going to make it easier to develop without going through proper review, proper public notification, and what's next. That's what's worrying. That's what worries the neighborhood. Please proceed with caution. Thank you.
Thank you. So with that, I will close public comment and bring it back to the applicant for 3 minutes if they wish. I'm being advised that that is not in line with our protocol. No? Sorry.
So I guess I'll just close by saying, as attached to the staff report, the property owner is contractually obligated and under a city order to get a grading permit for the grading that took place in the past. And this is the process that the city has provided the property owner. The property owners would support the Commissioner Godwin's suggestion of a different way to get the grading permit without the rezoning, but this is the process that the city has. They're not seeking approval for any other development. The rezoning is solely to get the grading permit that they're contractually obligated to get. So that's the process the city has presented the property owners. That's the process they're going through. That's why we're here tonight. And then the soil, there has been soil testing done on the soil that's on site. It's been provided to the city. And so I think those topics have been addressed as well. And so if there's any other questions, we'd be happy to field them. But the purpose for tonight's hearing and the application that's before this commission is to allow the property owners to fulfill their obligation to the city through the process that the city has presented them.
Okay. Would anyone else on your team like to add?
Oh, anybody else?
Okay. Then I will close the time and move it back to the commission for questions. Would anyone like to start?
Would you like me to
Chair
stay at the
Hauser.
lectern or be seated?
You can be seated. Thank you.
Chair Hauser, if I may, just a point of clarification about SB 1214 and the plans being available. So SB 1214 does require that the plans, they can be inspected, but they cannot be copied or distributed to the public unless permission is granted by the design professional or the owner of the copyright. So if someone does request plans, they can be inspected by request.
So Deputy Director, I just want to make sure that I'm sorry, Assistant Director, to clarify for the public, you're saying that if folks want to review the materials, they can come into City Hall and review them into planning offices and review them in person?
That's correct. Or alternatively, they can set up an appointment with the project planner and do a virtual meeting. So we do provide those options upon request.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. I think we probably all have lots. Would anyone like to start? Can I ask why this is categorically exempt? It's a high fire zone and a rezone. Doesn't seem like.
So it's categorically exempt under 3 categories, right? Class 1, Class 4, and the common sense exemption. So the fact that it's in a high fire zone doesn't come into play necessarily because it falls within the categorical exemptions, and the exceptions, including location and other exceptions, don't apply.
Okay. Commissioner Davis, do you want to start?
Yeah, I'm going to give it a whirl.
And this, I noticed this in a lot of public comments, and I'm trying to understand myself. As some of you know, I'm a little new to this. Could staff help me understand and please define, and as Aaron asked, for a definition of the PD zoning classifications? And there are some sub-questions to this that I don't know if it would be easier for me to ask them all at once. But that's my first question, is I would like to understand better and have a definition of the PD zoning classification. And specifically, how it compares with the current zoning and allowable uses, and what the PD zoning and allowable uses are. And I remember that a similar question came up from the public a lot around a very similar PD rezoning when the quarry reclamation plan was up. And I think that it would be worthwhile to understand that better and get a definition of that.
That's a great question, Commissioner Davis. So I will make reference to the planned development district and first start off with the purpose of the PD district. So the purpose of the PD planned development district is to allow for diversification of the relationship of various building structures and open spaces in planned building groups while ensuring substantial compliance with the district regulations and other provisions of this chapter. And moving to the use permitted, that was a follow-up question. The use permitted in the planned development district shall be the uses designated on the approved development plan. So in this case, for this application, the proposal is for the single-family residential uses. And as for the development standards for the planned development district, typically the PD district would abide by the closest zoning district that represents the parcel. And so in this case, the existing single-family residential buildings on site and the fact that both parcels have the B lot overlay, which provides a bit of a different development standards to the R1 district, but that's not relevant in this application, provided that the application would just be for the land use approval for the retroactive grading permit.
Okay, and that leads to my next question. So I understand what you just said, and that this plan development is just this soil movement that was already done, this grading. At least that's my understanding. But what are the implications of rezoning to PD for future plans for this property?
From my understanding, if there's any deviations from the development plan that is before the commission this evening, if there are deviations to that, the applicant would have to come back for an amended development plan. So if there are future changes or proposals for development, they'll need to come back to the commission for review and approval.
Okay, understood. But does the fact that it was rezoned PD from R1 CR make it easier and or open up additional options to the applicant, and or is there an advantage for the applicant in it being zoned PD rather than its current zoning?
Not that we're aware of. It just effectuates the diversifying the uses on the site. So it's a single-family use, and it continues to be the single-family use on the site.
So back to the question of then, is the rezoning really necessary to do a retroactive grading permit? I feel that, I mean, to me, it does sound a little bit like easier to ask forgiveness than permission. And, you know, this was a violation. I don't know if there were fines. I don't know if they've been paid. After the order, after the administrative hearing, they then violated the order. And it just sounds a little, I just think that if the rezoning could be avoided, it might be a little more reassuring to the neighbors and allow for less latitude perhaps being taken going forward by the property owner.
So just to clarify, Commissioner Davis, though, the rezoning is a requirement for, within the HPD district. It's also a requirement in the agreement that the applicant has with the city to ensure the process for the retroactive grading permit. And so one thing I did want to point out is that the HPD district, there is some voter approval requirements for changes to the HPD district language in Article 22.5. And so that's why I believe that it hasn't been changed to date. I don't know if the voter approval requirement applies to the entire Article 22.5, but that is a constraint on the HPD provisions in the code. So, and, you know, I think that as a part of the code enforcement, we looked at lots of options to try to obtain compliance. And if there had been an easier route, we certainly would have considered it. But as I recall, this route, because it's in the HPD, was the route that needed to be taken to achieve compliance.
Okay.
I reserve the right to ask more.
You may always ask more and opine. Anybody else? Commissioner Ferguson?
Yeah, sure, I'll take a crack. A question on I think we're all a little confused about the way that this works. When we do a PD zoning for what would be traditionally thought of as planned development, right? Someone who's trying to put 19 units on an empty piece of land. After the development, the zoning reverts back to something that is not PD, correct? It stays PD forever.
That's correct. It stays PD, but it's usually the standards are reviewed as the closest land use or closest zoning district to the proposal.
So any parcel in Pacifica that's ever had a PD zoning stays PD zoning in perpetuity?
That's correct. So the zoning map
Interpretation of
updates.
that is whatever at a later time it is. Okay.
That's correct. Yeah, the zoning map will be updated to a PD.
That is new to me and also seems very counterproductive, but okay. I'll get past that. I have a question for staff. Is there any other application currently under the city review for this parcel in any manner?
No, there are no active applications besides this one under this property.
Okay. There's quite a number of findings required to be made here tonight. Several of them would, if the scope is anywhere outside of specifically the dirt that was moved, and I've noticed in the packet page they actually have included photos of uses that aren't covered under their current zoning. So if the commission was inclined to be against this PD zoning, what would that then do to the city? Because this is a process that was sort of dictated to you for a nuisance abatement.
So certainly it is within the Planning Commission's discretion to consider the application before you in any manner which you see fit. As you mentioned, you would need to look at the findings and make a determination on whether or not the Planning Commission can make those findings for the various entitlements. If the Planning Commission feels that it can't make those findings, then it will make the decision that it makes, and hopefully it would be supported by substantial evidence. But in terms of the code enforcement, what that would mean for the retroactive grading permit is that the applicant, I don't believe, could obtain a retroactive grading permit unless this item before you tonight is approved. So then we would be back sort of at square one, where they are out of compliance and can't fulfill the requirements of the hearing officer's order.
Okay, and given that no further activity is planned, it would just be out of compliance on a paperwork perspective, but nothing would change on the site.
Well, they wouldn't install the carport, which is a requirement of the, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Can I piggyback on that for a second? Because the carport seems like something we probably,
They were made to do.
right, but what I feel like maybe we do, I don't want to speak for everyone, but what I feel like I care about more is the BMPs and like the stormwater control measures being put in place, which don't typically require a grading permit retroactively. So if we wanted to mandate that they put in best management practice erosion control and not grant a grading permit retroactively and not rezone the property, wouldn't that ameliorate the issue? I think what the commission is having a hard time with is the rezone, which seems, I see that it's in our code, but it feels so arbitrary and like a very odd reason to rezone.
Yeah. I mean, so I think your question that is, can we forget about the application that's before us and require BMPs instead?
Well, I think the application before us has BMPs that are supposed to be installed. So I think what I'm saying is if no soil is being moved and no one wants to rezone the site, but we want them to install the BMPs, why would we care if they have a retroactive grading permit if it doesn't change anything and only creates a kerfuffle, right? That's, Vice Chair.
Yeah, and I guess another angle to ask the question is, in general, any property in Pacifica, if a property owner is dumping soil in their storm drain or improperly draining sewage to their storm drain, which I know unintentionally happens, what does the city typically do to remediate that? And then, yeah, what does the city typically do? So this is a hypothetical question.
That's a great question, Vice Chair Berman. We'll have to consult with our city engineer on their best practices. But from my understanding, if that is a code enforcement complaint, that is something they investigate, and then they do require submittal of any type of permits in order to do work such as that, which I believe would be a grading permit to be issued in order to retroactively solve any of the stormwater issues that occurred during that time.
So it's possible that BMPs in general may require a grading permit even if there's no grading or soil movement?
That's typically the trigger is if someone does work without the permit and it's required to have certain stormwater protection, we would require them to submit some type of permit to ensure that these stormwater best management practices are provided in their plan. We've reviewed it and we issue a permit for them to authorize to fix any issues that occurred on the site.
So could we require them to get a SWIP instead of a grading permit? Right? Because then there's no rezone.
A WDID?
There's a WDID number with the water board.
I think that, well, perhaps the engineering department needs to advise, but in order for the city to enforce that, they probably need a local jurisdiction permit of some sort.
That's
a grading
correct.
permit.
Because the Hillside Preservation District requires any development to go through the procedures of a planned development, so that includes the specific plan and development plan to be approved by the Planning Commission. They wouldn't be authorized to submit a grading permit in this case.
Oh, I see Commissioner Redfield and then Commissioner Davis.
I'm very curious. We had public comment about the flooding that occurred. I lived on Cape Breton for many years, experienced that myself with several issues with the city that were later resolved. Were those issues that caused the flooding corrected? That was clear stormwater. From my understanding, the storm drain system was filled up with dirt, basically, and wasn't flowing. So it allowed even the permeable surface to allow runoff. Was that corrected? That's a stormwater management plan. All cities have it. It's required by the state, and it's also highly subject to penalties.
Yeah, the city enforces its NPDES permit, the National Pollutant Discharge permit, but I'm not aware, as I sit here today, of what the outcome of that issue was. I don't know if there was any code enforcement by the city or any, even if the city had any knowledge about that issue.
So essentially, it's an unknown from that, the cause of that documented flooding.
I have no idea.
Okay.
Yeah. And it sounds like staff is not aware either.
I was just really tying into the idea that both Chair Hauser and Vice Chair Berman were expressing. I think that would be a great way to go. Apply the BMPs. I think it was one of the three stipulations of the order anyway. Forget about the grading permit. That horse has left the barn, no pun intended. And, you know, I mean, yeah. And I was actually curious if they had made any attempt to take any action around that even, you know, since the order.
Did staff want to answer that, and then I'll go to Commissioner Ferguson?
I'm sorry?
I kind of had a question, well, I didn't kind of, I did have a question about the three conditions. I think one was the retroactive grading permit, one was taking the mitigation, the BMPs, to contain the soil that had been moved, and then the other was the use of the arena only for its intended classified purposes, which we know they violated that one. But I wondered if they did make any attempt to do any of the BMP prior, or maybe they needed some sort of authorization for that and couldn't have, because this has been, what, almost 3 years?
Oh, you're talking, Commissioner Davis, you're referring to the order, the hearing officer's order? Oh, yes. Okay. So I'm sorry, I was confused.
I'm sorry.
Yes, my understanding is they did take steps to control the erosion of soil. They, as I recall, they put out straw wattles, and they covered some of the areas to prevent displacement by wind. Yes, that's my understanding.
Thank you.
I'm going to try and get right to the heart of what I think the public cares about, and I think we're all dancing around. The current zoning R1 does allow for churches, but it requires a specific use permit.
Conditional use permit?
Correct, and that would be a planning commission use permit. Am I correct?
That's correct, but the item before you isn't proposing churches.
I'll get there. The rezone to PD, how does that affect the mechanism if this property was going to require a conditional use permit? Because I'm looking at packet page 422 already included. And I'll try not to reference any of the documentation that I'm sure all of us have received hundreds of times now in the last 3 years. But in this packet, there's clearly a photo of that already occurring there. So with this PD development, would there still be a commission required condition of approval to allow that additional use?
Yes, so they would, any proposed church uses would be required to obtain a conditional use permit.
Within the PD zoning?
That's correct. If,
okay.
It would be a change in use, so from residential use.
Right, but that's on the R1. Those are spelled out very specifically in the city code. I don't think that they are in the PD code. From my research, and I don't want to create a situation where we've inadvertently allowed for new uses without the proper and intentional review of that use, which is the whole purpose of, I think, everyone being here. I don't think a lot of people care that much about the sandbags.
Yeah, I think staff is confirming now, but it's our understanding that it would have to come back to the planning commission for approval of that
Okay.
change in use.
I personally wouldn't be willing to move forward without having that really clearly confirmed.
I mean, even if it's really clearly confirmed, this like doesn't pass the logic
It just
test
has a
for
smell
me,
test to me.
and I'm not comfortable. So I'm one, but it just seems like there's a different path that makes more sense and accomplishes what we need.
Sorry to interrupt, Commissioners. So, and I'm pulling up the exact, making sure I have the exact exhibit title. So for within attachment A of the resolution, a draft resolution, which also contains an exhibit in the ordinance as well as the conditions of approval. So if you look at exhibit A, which would be the development plan identifying the standards use and the approved use that would be, that the planning commission will be recommending to the city council for approval. So on that table, it identifies single family residential use and other uses.
Could you state the page again?
Packet page?
Apologies, I'll have the packet page for you momentarily.
Is it this?
Packet page 385 and 386.
Can I ask a question? I am assuming that a 1 to 300 square foot grading action occurred on less than 5 acres. Is that a correct assumption?
So it is staff's understanding that the relocation of soil occurred within the footprints of the covered arena.
Which is the 30,000 square feet.
If that's the listed square, yes, yeah, the square footage for the covered arena, yes.
I haven't read the whole thing, but I'm in 9-42205, which is development plans and PDs. And it's talking about, this might be fees, but it's talking about waiving items pertaining to grading, tree removal, and other alterations to the natural condition of the land. I guess what I'm saying is, isn't there a way to waive the rezoning and still be consistent with our code and still require the actual things that we want to happen?
I think from looking at it, wasn't all of the regrading done on one of the two parcels? And why then would we rezone both parcels?
That is correct, Commissioner Ferguson, that the grading activity had occurred on the parcel to which the covered arena sits on, and the purpose of reclassifying both parcels to the planned development is because the single-family residence sits on, or at least partially on, the parcel that is currently zoned R1.
And that's not the same parcel as the regrading?
That's correct. That is as a separate parcel than the one that the grading activities took place.
That makes this make even less sense to me.
Here, here.
I agree with that.
So unless there are more comments, and I don't want to belabor the point, I don't see a yes vote happening right now because I've heard 4 people say this doesn't make sense to me, and I'm a 5th, and we can poll
I'm
and whatever.
for a continuance or wherever that may be, but I have an idea.
Please.
And I've never seen this done before, but as I mentioned earlier, I think it's insane that we leave zonings as PD forever. Is there a mechanism by which we could grant a PD zoning change and some time clock that reverts the zoning, that would give them their grading permit and allow them to close this out and then reverts the zoning back to what it was before today. We're just doing a clerical paperwork cleanup anyways. You have your PD zoning for 2 days, your permit is issued, your zoning reverts immediately back to what it is right now. I think that would satisfy everyone. Is that possible mechanically?
I also want to apologize to staff because it's like, I know that this is a very weird process for you guys too. And I know you're trying to figure out solutions, so.
We have a weird code.
We've got a weird code and we appreciate.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate Commissioner Ferguson's very unique idea. That's one I've never heard of before. But I mean, I understand why you're suggesting it. It's just that I'm not aware of any mechanism to have it revert back, given that it is an ordinance that is passed and becomes effective, and then.
You couldn't write in like at a date certain, the zoning will then.
I'm happy to research it, but I'm not aware of any type of ordinance that's ever done that.
Okay.
I've got a slight variant of that. That's okay.
Let's do it.
Is it possible to subdivide the parcel where the land was disturbed and limit the amount of new zoning to that much smaller piece of property? Right now, we have 2 parcels in this. Can we create a third? Can we divide one of them into 2 pieces with a small piece with the PD zoning and a large piece with the current zoning? And satisfy the need to get the
Right.
retroactive grading permit that way? I know that's strange too, but.
Yeah, I mean, that's not in the app, of course, that's not in the application before us, and that wasn't discussed, and that's not a topic, that wasn't what was in the agreement.
Yeah, that's
But
what
I
I was-
also think that there is some benefit to treating the parcels together, and that would create consistency. I mean, separating out the parcels, subdividing the parcels, and then zoning one and not the others, that could create challenges.
And Commissioner Godwin, to answer your question, a proposal to subdivide the land would also require the plan development process, so it has to go through the same procedures and standards of the plan development process, that they do have to submit the development plan and specific plan to propose the subdivision.
It would still have to be rezoned.
So it'd still have to be rezoned.
And it would not be exempt from CEQA with the subdivision map act.
What, I don't know.
We would have to look at that in detail.
A blind alley.
Depending on the.
Forget I mentioned it.
I guess I concur with a lot of the commissioners here that I'm confused, and I feel that this method is not appropriate for what the ultimate goal is I guess if we all, I think we all agree with the conditions that a site, any site in Pacifica should practice best management practices, especially with stormwater runoff, and no property owner should try to grade something without city approval. But I guess if we do continue this, I'd appreciate if we could have a member of the Public Works Department present to opine on effectively, this is a nuisance, and illegally discharging to the storm drain system is a nuisance. Pacifica owns and maintains the storm drain system. I mean, I feel that there's a lot of answers here, probably with the Public Works Department, that I'd appreciate if we do continue this.
If I may, Chair, whoever the compliance person is for stormwater management with the city would be the person, whether that's our engineer or whoever that may be. They would have the ins and outs and the knowledge of that.
So, Commissioner Davis?
One of the things that the engineer, the applicant's engineer, commented on is that this is this process and the requirements the city has put forth And it seems like none of us here are comfortable with the rezoning. So I was going to suggest, could we look at it with some of the ideas that have been shared here, review the process, and come back with a process that doesn't require rezoning, may or may not do a retroactive grading permit, but ultimately achieves the goal of the BMPs. Reasonable?
I think that's a reasonable continuance. I am just going to plant my flag that I'm a no on the rezoning. So if the application comes back with a rezoning, I'm not going to be a yes vote.
Yeah, and to piggyback on that, I mean, just looking through the findings, I disagree with some of the findings in the resolution because they're not applicable to what we're talking about. Like, there is no specific plan, and there's effectively no development except for the carport, which actually I have another question related to that. But I mean, it's incoherent to the point where, like, I even have a hard time defining how this is not applicable to the findings, because the findings don't even apply at all. Regarding the carport, so if there's effectively no change to development requirements, if this were rezoned to PD, why is a carport needed? What's the new parking requirement in PD?
Bring single-family home into compliance.
Yeah, I guess so.
That's why it's only a two-car carport.
Commissioner Berman, give me 1 second to pull up that exact code reference, make sure I'm referring to the right code section. So to answer your question, Commissioner Berman, the proposal for the installation of the prefabricated carport would be to comply with Pacifica Municipal Code Section 9-4.2259, which is the parking requirements for HPD. And in this case, the single-family detached dwelling units would require 2 covered spaces plus 2 uncovered spaces. And so as part of the application for the reclassification of the HPD, the applicant is proposing the carport in order to be in compliance with the city's municipal code regarding the HPD parking requirements.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Does anyone else have anything, or shall we bring it back to Commissioner Davis for crafting a continuance?
I have one other request. Prior to crafting a continuance, I did, in reading about this and reading public comment, it does seem like there were some costs and fines incurred specifically for the sports event that was in violation of the order. I think it was over $12,000, $12,500. So when this does come back to, when this does come back to us, I would be very interested in knowing if all those, if that's all been settled.
Yes, that's all been satisfied.
Okay,
Yes.
great. Thank you so much.
Oh, Vice Chair Berman.
Since I think we're approaching a motion, one thing that I was curious on, and not exactly applicable to rezoning, but I think certainly applicable to what we're discussing at the site, there's been a lot of comments about restricting public access to trails. Staff may not have this information on hand, but I'd be interested to know what easements or what access rights does the public have through this area? And are they being restricted illegally? So perhaps with our next meeting, if we do continue.
Does staff need anything else from the commission?
Not at this time, thank you.
Commissioner Redfield, you look like you want to speak.
I just wanted to make a comment. I wanted to say we love you guys. Thank you. This has been a long labor, and we absolutely appreciate the time and effort put in, and the public as well. Thank you. It's we see it all the time, and it's refreshing.
I don't
We
know
appreciate it.
how many times we're up here and we have to say sorry retroactively for those who came before us because we have such an odd code.
I appreciate that in the agreement, which is packet page 431, that staff clarified at the time that there are specific code regulations which must be adhered to in a somewhat complex procedural process with intertwined permits involving rezoning. And I appreciate that you saw this. Yeah, exactly. You knew this was going to happen. So thank you. Marge, do you want to take a stab at the continuance? You don't have to.
I'm not sure I can pull it off.
Okay. You said it so eloquently.
And Chair Hauser, before we
Yes.
get that motion, are we continuing it to date uncertain?
I think we should continue to a date uncertain and leave it in the hands of staff for when you'd like to come back. I know that you have other priorities.
Okay, that's fine.
Is that your preference?
Yes, that should work for us.
Okay. Commissioner Ferguson.
In that case, I move that we continue this item to a date uncertain with staff having the direction they've received from the commission tonight for research prior to that date.
Sorry. Given that we're talking about erosion and pollutant issues, is there a temporary measure that needs to be implemented in the interim?
As far as I know, the temporary measures are still in place, but I haven't confirmed that in many months. So we can confirm with the applicant, but I think at this point.
Yeah, I think everyone here is under the expectation that BMP measures will be maintained during this temporary interim.
Do you want to do a date uncertain prior to October 15th?
Oh, first slip?
May I just add to that we can, eyes on, confirm that is inspected by a city official?
I actually think that was in the requirements, the conditions was that it would be, or you talked about now?
We're not approving the conditions.
Oh, no, I know we're not, but I realize he meant now, but I believe it was in the engineering report that there was a recent visit and that some of the sandbags were deteriorating and they were instructed to repair those, and some of the tarps were being held down only by brick, and they were instructed to fix that. I mean, there was quite a bit about that in the engineering report, as I recall.
So I guess that dedication to attention will continue as led by the city.
Is there a second? Do you need to modify your motion?
And
is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, and then Chair Hauser, before we take a vote, I think staff would like some clarification on the direction, actually explicitly stated what the direction to staff has been on improvements. I have that to review zoning to determine if there's any other alternatives to rezoning requirements. At the continuous hearing, have a member of Public Works here to discuss stormwater management, ensure that the BMPs are being followed during the pendency of the continuance.
I was also curious to know about public access through the site.
Access, sorry, I didn't write that down.
Anybody else? Now's the time.
Staff? Okay, I'm going to ask for a vote. Okay, please vote.
Just to confirm, Commissioners, did Commissioner Ferguson make the motion for continuance?
And the Vice Chair second it.
And Vice Chair Berman second?
I pushed my red. Can we do it again?
We can go ahead and do a revote.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I think it's the arm of the chair hit black. I'm sorry.
Okay,
And-
the motion for a continuance to a date yet to be determined. Passes unanimously. Okay. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay, commission communications. Does anyone have anything?
Yeah, at the beginning of our meeting during oral communications, there was a commenter that had questions regarding city processes for notification. Don't necessarily expect an answer to those right now, but since that comment.
Can we have silence, please, in the room? Thanks.
And just so folks know, one of the questions during oral communications is being re-asked. So some of you may be interested in the answer.
Specifically, Lori.
So I think those were really great questions and concerns. I don't know if staff potentially has an answer to those questions or perhaps could review the public record of that comment and come back to us in the future with.
Yeah, we can review that comment for the record and come back with an answer in the future. But can you restate what you said?
Yeah, and sorry, I didn't take notes, but the city's announcement process for new public hearings goes to the San Mateo County
San Mateo
Chronicle.
No, Journal, excuse me.
Journal. And I think the community is asking for more available and accessible ways of public communication, because it sounds like you have to subscribe to the same.
One where there's no charge, I would think that would be, yeah, there's no paywall.
I think the Journal, we've had this discussion before, and it was explained to us that the Journal has meets the requirements of the distribution, and the Tribune or the Coastside News no longer does.
That's
Go
correct,
ahead.
Chair Hauser. So previously, I believe it was the Pacifica Tribune that we would circulate notices, but there is a requirement that the notice is in a general circulation of a general newspaper, and I don't believe the one that was listed as part of the public comment provides that service. So San Mateo Daily Journal is the one that's available for the city to generally circulate these notices.
May I ask, aren't all this information available on the city's website? So you have an alternate opportunity to at least view this stuff? Not everybody uses the web or whatever, but.
I appreciate that, but I could definitely see there's a lot of cases where residents live near a development that they don't even know is going to be developed. And I guarantee that they're not checking the city website regularly, just in the happenstance that there is a nearby development. So I think that's why it is beneficial to have, whatever commonly used news media is, to have our public hearing updates there. But now I understand there's a protocol, there's requirements that need to be met, so.
I think if we go further on this, we're kind of bordering on discussing something that's not on the agenda. But maybe we can agendize just talking about noticing at some point when we've got time.
Yes, we can look into that.
Fabulous. Any other communications? I have one quick one. I was told by a community member that one of the short-term rentals that is advertised for 16 people is now for sale to an actual homeowner. So I know it doesn't technically increase our arena, but it is nice to see more housing in the city. Okay, let's move to staff communications.
There are no staff communications.
Then may we get a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
Please vote. And that motion passes unanimously.
What's wrong?
Switchgear we installed in the Samtrans bus depot in San Carlos blew up.
You have to go?
Use for doing this.
Shoot, I had a question.